A collagraph is a really simple intaglio printing process. In this instance, I'm drawing on the surface of serial packet card. Any packaging usually has a sealed printed surface, and this makes it a great surface to scratch into or to tear. I've started off by drawing out the design with a Chinagraph pencil, and now I'm starting to cut away areas of the card to reveal the rougher card underneath. This will ink up as a much darker tonal area in the print. I'm now starting to scratch into the surface of the card using a dry point spike. Again, these textural elements will ink up and print as darker areas. As I started to draw with the dry point spike, I noted that the card was starting to tear quite a lot. So then I shifted to the use of a craft knife. It's clearly important that when you use a craft knife, you make sure you cut away from yourself. And the idea is to lacerate the surface with fine indentations rather than to fully cut up the card so that it becomes a fragile matrix. One could, of course, stick onto the surface of card different textural elements as well, including the use of fabric. Or one can also alter the textural surface with the addition of acrylic. One can cut away areas of the card, which will then print as completely white areas. Once one is satisfied with the drawing of the plate, the next part of the process is to ink up the plate, and you can see the edge of the chair as a piece of card is flapping around somewhat. We'll deal with that later. Now we need to get the ink into those crevices, so the use of a piece of card and a decorator's sponge has been useful in initially covering the plate with an intaglio based ink. Now the surface ink is being removed with the use of newspaper. So here the shinier areas of the plate are less likely to hold ink than the intaglio rougher areas. So one works methodically with various different layers of newspaper until one has wiped the plate sufficiently. Now that flap of card was then repaired on the back with a piece of masking tape to hold it in position. Now that the plate is ready to be printed, it's next placed on top of a registration plate. Damped blotted cartridge is now placed on top of the registration marks, and 3 layers of newspaper are then placed on the back of the paper. The use of a spoon, whether wooden or metal, now presses the newsprint on top of the paper, which presses the paper into those various indentations. The point of an intaglio ink is that it takes longer to dry, so you've got more chance of pulling the image off onto your printing paper. Here you can see the printed result. Now obviously, if one is printing something by hand, thinner cartridge paper will give a richer result than thicker etching paper. The use of an etching press will of course yield much more richer areas of tone, as the paper is really forced into all the crevices available. But it's a really exciting process nonetheless.